So hey guys, this is your favorite fictional vortex. So in this video, we will see what if Naruto was Fire Queen's guardian. But before we start, remember to subscribe and like this video. Now let's start. Void of nothing. I haven't taken a hit like that since that time I let Suheim hit me with a punch when I made her younger and let her test her strength. A boy groaned sitting up as his eyes opened to see a ominous void of color sitting on an clear floor. He stood up revealing he was a fair 6 feet even as he was lean with packed muscle. Giving him the physique of a swimmer with long red hair reaching his back that was spiked out with a bang covering his left eye that showed the right was royal purple with 6 whisker marks on his cheeks. He had his shirt destroyed with his pants in no better shape showing his six-pack as he heard a groan next to him making him turn to see an equally disheveled red and blonde hair with a purple D. Amand on her forehead as her kimono top was tattered barely holding on with her impressive bust and her lean taut frame with her pants being tattered with her clothes barely covering her modesty. Walking over to her he kneeled in front of her and said, "Suheim, you okay?" Nhh Naruto Koi. What happened? Me and the other Kage helped you fight Madara after Sasuke gave you his dujutsu causing to mutate your Rinnegan and you beat it in the Jubi but I can't remember what happened after, she said sitting up with her honey brown eyes staring at the amethyst pools she's loved for so long. Your guess is as good as mine. I used a seal to seal away the Jubi and then you came checking me over seeing if I was well and then nothing with us in some void with nothing going on for miles. I do. NT even sense anyone's chakra so I'd say it's safe to assume that we're the only ones here, he said helping her stand. About time they woke up I was getting bored watching 2 sleeping humans for past 100 years, a female voice said with a bored tone making the 2 tense before they heard a smack. Baka don't scare Naruto-kun and Tsunade-chan they're in a new place and don't even know what happened. Besides you still have a bit of drool hanging from your lip from staring at Naruto-kun's muscles, another female voice said reprimanding the first with a teasing tone. Well let's not keep them in suspense sisters the 2 look like they're losing their patience and would attack if someone doesn't do something, a third said that a sense of regularity as the 3 phased into existence as 3 beautiful women came into view. The first was as tall as Naruto if not a few inches shorter with a deep tan like most of the inhabitants of Kumo with a few scars visible across her body wearing a black kimono that had a red lining with a blue obi tied around her waist as the neck declined deep between her marvelous bust. Her eyes were a fierce chocolate brown that held a cold expression her hair was a shade lighter than her eyes was in a ponytail going up to her back. The second stood at 5 feet 9 with a sun-kissed tan with her sun-kissed blonde hair reaching past her hips with her blonde hair framing her heart-shaped face that held a kind motherly expression with her sky-blue eyes shining. She wore a kimono like her sister except it was white with black lining and a gray obi-tied arrow. Her waist and like her sister it showed her bust and her generous curves. The last was between the 2 in height with a pale complexion with dark blue eyes as her midnight black hair reaching between her shoulder blades. She was wearing a red tattered kimono with a black obi tied around her waist. Her bust and curves were slightly smaller than her sister's but were still desired by many women. Who are you? Tsunade asked ignoring her state of dress getting into a stance in case they were hostile while Naruto stood ready to react feeling the immense energy rolling of them to the point it street. Evenly with the Jubi if not dwarfing it by an absurd level altogether. Now no need to be so defensive you 2 me and my sisters brought you here after you defeated Madara and the Jubi after Naruto-kun here absorbed the others he in a sense made himself into a Biju or more specifically another Jubi just without the tails but your power was going out of control and would have destroyed planet due to the massive strain your coils were going through. The third woman said making the 2 shinobi's eyes widen. So you're saying? Tsunade started getting a nod from the 3 women as all of them were looking at Naruto who had slowly drawn the same conclusion. That's right Naruto-kun your unnaturally high luck was the only thing keeping you from turning the both of you and the planet into space debris I mean literally you were throwing around a S-rank jutsu with your unstable coils you were a proverbial ticking time bomb. The first woman said making Naruto gulp unaware of how loose he was from going up like a super-powered Bijudama. Baka, how many times do I tell you to be careful but no you can't help but be crazy and do something reckless. Why can't you ever just listen to me when I say these things? she said, pounding on his head comically, causing the three women watching to sweat drop. As hilarious as this is, we have some important matters to discuss, Naruto. Kun Tsunade-chan, the first woman said, causing the irate Senju to ease her blows as the two stood up again. Now, the reason we brought the both of you here is twofold. The first is because you, Naruto Kun, have completed your destiny as the child of prophecy and saved the elemental nations despite all the souls dying and going to their respective domains. In time the world will reset itself, and as on so as we speak, as centuries have gone by, his life has rebuilt itself from the bottom up. The second said, showing them that the world had indeed begun to rebuild itself with man and women alike being separated by nations, with them doing what abilities the ninja in their world would have wet dreams over. Excuse me, but not to sound like I'm making this about us, but why are Naruto and I here? I mean, it's good that the world is growing again, but we still don't see what this has to do with us. And you still haven't told us who you are, she said, getting a nod from Naruto. We were getting to that. We'll answer your second question first, since I am Kami and these are my sisters Yami and Shinigami, Kami said, getting a raised eyebrow from Naruto as he nodded, knowing that women were the truly powerful beings, while Tsunade was dancing around whooping about women being the most powerful beings in the world, making him chuckle, loving this side of her. Now as for the second, the reason we are the two of you here is because not only because Naruto-kun as our mate is chosen by the original Kami before he perished, with all of us taking over his respective roles, we need your help one more time, Yami said, getting a surprised look from the two, being told that Naruto was three goddesses betrothed, but didn't argue as it would prove pointless. When they want something they get it. So, what do you need our help with? Another maniac attempting to control the world, with him perverting it into his own image, with him as the absolute leader as all others bowed at his supposed might. He said, with Tsunade nodding, since that's how these things always go. They nodded as Shinigami said, yes, you see Naruto-koi, the world has changed over the time you've slept, which up here isn't long at the minimum a couple of days, a week at the most. Here there is a being known as the Avatar who acts as a bridge between the realm of the living and the spirit world, bringing balance. He masters all four elements to do this. Pointing to the screen, they showed several people doing the same thing. Their eyes and possibly some markings on their bodies glowed, and they performed amazing feats. Well, not overly amazing, mind you, but you get the idea. This Avatar is going to need help mastering the four elements while traveling to stop the Fire Nation from taking over the world. You two are to assist them when he arises from his frozen slumber. But for you two, we need you two to do something else, she said, showing two women, one in a prison who had once held a sense of nobility but looked like she lost all holds of sanity, fighting her mental demons due to her father trying to make her into his image while trying to please him, and her mother for leaving after her brother took the throne in an attempt to continue the war. And the other was a blind woman who lived a hellish life, unable to enjoy her life due to her parents controlling her every step, keeping her on a tight leash like she was some fragile doll, as she went unknown by the populace of her country, forced to marry someone she didn't love so her family line could continue. We need you two to help them and assist them to reaching a better outcome. The two of you are capable of this, so Naruto, you'll be going with the princess of the Fire Nation to help her turn her fate from this, while you, Tsunade, help Toph Bei Fong, so when the two of reunite given time you can assist her regain her sight, Shinigami said, getting a nod from the two of them. But how are we going to fight? Really, we don't know their arts, let alone their culture or their history. I don't think we'd last long if the people saw the fact that we didn't know the basics of their culture or their skills, Tsunade said, getting a nod from Naruto as the three goddesses shrugged. And that's why we're going to train you two, since Naruto has the Jubigan, the perfect fusion of the three legendary dujutsu. You can use the elements like the Avatar, although they are all more powerful. Your fire, wind, and water affinity are the strongest by far, but it's best if you don't use those in the Fire Nation unless absolutely necessary without a believable excuse. You, Tsunade, have an earth and water affinity, Kami said, getting a nod from him, since from what he and Tsunade saw, the water tribes aren't too well liked by the Fire Nation, being their opposites in the air. No Mads have been wiped out save for the current Avatar who's in a stasis. Now there is also something you should know, Naruto-kun, since your father used the Shiki Fuin on you, sealing the Kurama into you, gained the access of an old Uzumaki bloodline that was lost since their extermination, she said, making the two humans look at her. What bloodline? Tsunade asked, since to her and Naruto's knowledge, The only bloodlines the Uzumaki held were their knowledge of seals, mastery in Kenjutsu, and the two bloodlines to suppress a Biju being the chakra chains and the Rinnegan as well as their Longavi. Tai which she regained when Naruto mated her and helped her Uzumaki genes to rise to the surface. You and Naruto both hold a portion of Shinny-chan's soul that had grown tremendously over the years amo. Re-potent energy known as Reishi, otherwise known as spirit energy, which all Uzumaki could use before their mass destruction. The other half of chakra you use to fight like the humans now use Kai, the other half to perform their bending, which we will be teaching you while Shinny-chan teaches the both of you what Reiatsu can allow you to perform since she's better at it than Kami and I, Yami said. With a smile, getting a nod from the two of them. It's going to be some time before you depart, so we'll have plenty of time to help you two learn everything necessary, Yami said, getting a nod from the two. Overview. A little under 100 years. A little under 100 years they've trained to prepare for their duty to help the two as Tsunade is being sent to Tofu Kami and the others say with her medical expertise and later with Naruto's assistance with his creations of all things he can help her regain the use of her sight, while Naruto is being sent to the Fire Princess Azula as the goddesses say with his personality and caring nature he can keep her from falling into darkness. Through the three goddesses Naruto and Tsunade grew in leaps and bounds with their skills. Naruto Maste read his bending as did Tsunade, who had a control of earth and water, both of which fit her to a T. They also learned about the Reishi and Reiatsu, which let them use special abilities called Kido. And they weren't training, they were learning about the history of the four nations, and it seemed like there was absolutely no mention of the elemental nations or any of the past animals that resided bef. Or them, as if the villages that resided were hidden unknown by humanity. The two had to admit the world was admittedly safer without them knowing about chakra again, but knew it wasn't impossible for someone to have gained knowledge of the power they once possessed once upon a time and knew to use it only when necessary and to help the people they were assigned to assist. Over the time they were in limbo, Naruto had completely bonded with the original Jubi, making him exponentially more powerful with power in spades as his body adjusted to the surge in power. His muscles were compressed, giving him a live swimmer's physique. But everyone knew that if he hit you, you'd be lucky to survive. Present time. So we're leaving now? Naruto asked as both he and Tsunade had been reduced in age to death. Of children possibly no older than 6 or 7. Naruto's hair had darkened till it was midnight black with red streaks in it reaching his lower upper back, with a bang being held together with a red bandage with another bang sweeping over his now grayish royal purple eye, leaving the other visible as both bangs were as white as snow. He wore what most Fire Nation children wore, black shorts and a red shirt under an open black vest with gold trimming. He decided to forego shoes and wear bandages instead. On his belt, he had several pouches containing his kunai and shuriken, while also holding several scrolls holding his weapons. Tsunade had also changed, looking much like she did when she was in the academy, same for her hairstyle except it was perfect mix of blonde and red. She wore the standard Earth Kingdom attire comprised of earth tone colors. Forest green slipper-like shoes and black shorts, a light green vest over a deep brown short-sleeved shirt, and a pair of baggy deep green shorts. Much like Naruto, she had several large pouches to hold her supplies and seals to hold scrolls, as well as weapons, mainly medicinal supplies for use in the shinobi standard. The three goddesses nodded. Two portals opened up, one in the middle of a forest in the Fire Nation capital and another in an alley outside the town Toph's family lived in. That's right, but don't worry Naruto-kun, we'll see you too soon, but with your stamina we'd advise you get a couple of mates because you're going to have stamina so immense the amount you had before makes it look like a civilian by comparison, who knows. Maybe Toph and Azula would join, Kami said, making Naruto's eye twitch as he learned over the time that the goddess of life had a kinky side to her. Yami preferred rough and fast while Shinny enjoyed soft and tender. Not giving a rebuttal, he sighed after kissing the three on the lips before kissing Tsunade as well. The two jumped through the portals as they closed. After a moment Yami said, "Do you think we should have told them that the location the portal shows isn't always exact to where they land?" Her two sisters were silent before they shrugged before Shinigami said, "They'll figure that out." The other two deities looked at Shinigami before they said in synchrony, "You're a bitch, you know that." Quote. She shrugged. She'd rather be a bitch with a cold stare than a kinky nympho any day. Besides, nah. Ruto said she made the sexy librarian look work when she wore her glasses with her hair in a bun. In the Fire Nation, splash asterisk, all landed on my stomach son of a bitch. Naruto complained swimming to shore grumbling holding his stomach. Oh when I see those three again they are going to get it big time. He grumbled using his water bending to remove the water from his clothes. Sighing he said wall, king through the forest. Oh well I just hope Tsunade had a easier landing and is at least close to Toph's location. Where the hell is the fire capital? That's where Azula is. With Tsunade. Kya, something fat get in my way. All the animals heard as a loud thud with dust blocking their view before they heard groaning as Tsunade got up brushing dust and twigs out of her hair. I am so giving. Those bitches an ass whooping when I see them again. I just hope Naruto Koi had an easier landing, Tsunade said to herself looking around to see she was just outside past the Beifong home. Well, at least they put me in the right place, she muttered before hearing a scream making her run towards the sound to see a girl with milky green eyes being attacked causing her to earth bend the ground beneath them as they got sucked in up to their heads. You know boys I would think your mothers taught you better than to attack someone who can't fight back let alone someone who can't even see it Ming, Tsunade said causing the girl to whip her head around to Tsunade's voice. Who the hell are you bitch? One man said getting a smirk from the woman. I'm Tsunade Uzumaki Senju and I would think you had more common sense than to lay your hands on women, she said getting the others to growl at the fact a child is talking down to them. Let us out of here flat chest so we can teach both you and the blind brat a lesson. The first man said before the area was covered in killer intent making them all look to Tsunade who had an air of death around her. Flat chest. Hey, someone wants to die, she muttered eerily as she stalked towards the three men before the alleyway was filled with screams making the blind youth to wonder quietly who this mysterious woman was. Months later. Naruto come on me. Ty Lee and Mai are heading to school. Naruto heard groaning sitting on his bed after putting on his uniform for the school. It's been little over 2 months since Naruto made it to the Fire Nation capital and saved Azula from a bandit who tried to kidnap her. For her family's thanks are more so the appreciation of her uncle Iroh, Azula and her mother after learning he was an orphan adopted him into the family. Alright keep your panties on. Naruto said tightening the bandages on his feet that's one thing he never liked were the shoes here they were stiff and uncomfortable with little room if he had to wear footwear he'd wear sandals or his bandages shoes just feel restricting to him. From the other side of the door the princess of the Fire Nation couldn't help but blush as the door slid open. The young heiress had been friends with Naruto for months and couldn't help but fall for him as did her two friends since he didn't treat them like royalty but simply kids who wanted to enjoy life. Hiya Foxy, Ty Lee said excitedly getting a chuckle from Naruto. She's always been full of energy and she tends to be a bit of an airhead. She tends to be at the circus from time to time as a gymnast and an acrobat due to her incredible sense of balance and flexibility and is capable of using a fighting style to block a bender's kai for a time or possibly knocking them unconscious as well as her peculiar ability to see their aura making him wonder if she has a diluted mutation of the Byakugan. Hey, Mai said stoically as always. She never was the type to express herself due to her parents having that speak when spoken to attitude so she isn't very good at emotions. Granted Naruto has been working on that with her but he has found out that Mai has a talent with throwing weapons when a fly came by she clipped its wings with a needle by accident and grew interested in it ever since to the point she carries weapons at all times even in school thanks to her long sleeves. Hey girls ready to go? Although I may just fall asleep listening to the teacher drone on like usual, Naruto said making the three laugh he had a photographic memory and knew everything word for word down to the last detail but he was ridiculously lazy unless it was something he was interested in he wouldn't do anything yet had the top scores in the academy much to everyone's surprise. I still don't understand how you can sleep through class without the teacher noticing and still do so well as to get perfect scores if you don't study, Azula said with her friends nodding as they walked through the nation to the academy while Azula, Mai and Ty Lee moved closer to him since he was the most desired among the girls their age due to his air of authority and power that demanded respect. The various nobles made several attempts to get a marriage agreement between their daughters and him but each of them didn't really appeal to him since it was out of the desire for his bending a ability and mastery over fire, which made him very well known due to it being hotter than any flame while it lasted longer as well. As they got into the classroom, Naruto sat between Ty Lee and Mai with Azula in front of him while they started the day with the Fire Nation oath as Naruto sighed. I wonder when things are going to get interesting, Naruto thought to himself as he toned out the teacher P. Reach about the Fire Nation's greatness, including the genocide of the air nomads. Months later at the Fire Nation arena. How did I get involved in this in the first damn place? Naruto thought STANDING in front of Azula's brother and younger double of Ozai, Prince Zuko of the Fire Nation. The two were currently standing in front of thousands of Fire Nation citizens as both Naruto and Zuko stood back to back across from each other wearing just a pair of shorts. Flashback: last month, Naruto had been practicing his bending in the training grounds of Forest with Azula while also helping Mayan Ty Lee with their styles of fighting like he always did, like he did while training with Iroh. It always intrigued him on how quick those three improved when training with him. For Ty Lee, fighting style was once so rigid, but now she used her natural flexibility and reflexes to bend at amazing angles while blocking a person's kai, keeping them from bending, a frightening ability to those who count solely on their bending. For Mai, she took to learning of the different long-range weapons and toxins so she can keep a target down after they're hit. It took a bit of work, but she can hit practica any target that she can see, while she's also slowly learning a close combat style that fits her, a rather slow task, but she's improving. Now Azula, as much as he hates the word, is a prodigy of the highest caliber. Her bending was incredible and her ability to improvise was impressive. It took a bit of time to teach her that everything her father says isn't absolute. After her mother left some time ago, her father showed his true colors and that he didn't care for his daughter since she was too much like her mother, even though her skills as a firebender were above anyone else in the nation, well second to him and third to Iroh. After that, her father pretty much went out of his way to show his displeasure of being around her. Naruto and Iroh took to training her in her bending since Ozai figured that an orphan and a failure of a firebender who couldn't take over Omashu training the accident was a grand idea, as failures should stick together, while he tried to keep her under his thumb why making her think she would regain her noble honor and his affection by doing as what he said. Great job Azula, take 5 and relax, you've deserved it. Tomorrow we'll work on the more advanced moves later. Did you decide on what weapon you'd take up on? I mean, you've got a good close combat fighter and can fight without your bending, but if someone's got a weapon, it would be good to know something, Naruto said with his hair in a ponytail as he joined Ty Lee and Mai by the lake while Azula sat next to him. I was thinking either knives or a sword of some kind, she said, getting a nod, not pressure ing her into anything, when a large fireball came towards them before Naruto destroyed it before sending a black fireball at the one who threw it. My Zuzu, awfully pathetic of you to attack someone when they're not paying attention. Makes me wonder if you're some thug instead of a prince, Naruto said with a grin while Azula and the others watched as her brother Zuko walked in from the forest with a sneer. I don't have to say anything to a moneyless peasant like you, I just wanted to see how my darling sister is doing, he said sarcastically, making Naruto roll his eyes. Zuko always was arrogant, manipulative, and uncaring just like his father. It also didn't help with the fact that his mother didn't like the fact he was taking after his father while Azula was given all the affection. That may be true, Zuzu, but I thought it was beneath royalty to attack someone when their guard is down. You know, honor of the crown and all that, Naruto said, getting under his skin as Zuko growled. Either Naruto or Zuko didn't see eye to eye. Naruto didn't like how Zuko tried to constantly put Azula down or try to make her feel weak while he followed in his father's footsteps, and Naruto already knew that he was far too gone to be saved. Hey, you think you're better than me, trash, he said condescendingly, unaware of the fact that Naruto was indeed better than him by far. I don't think, Zuko IK. Now I am far better than you by leagues, in fact, Naruto said with a grin, standing in front of Zuko face to face. If that is what you believe, I challenge you to an Agni Kai in a week, Zuko said with a scowl. A week? Hell, I'll give you a month so you can come up with a valid enough excuse to daddy on why you lost, Naruto said, getting a snort as Zuko nodded before turning away in the forest. Naruto, are you insane? Azula said, thinking her brother was going to hurt him, getting an eye roll from Naruto while Mai and Ty Lee were wondering the same thing. Azula, your uncle and I have been training. You and I'm better than him who is better than your father. I have little to no doubt I can win against some spoiled brat who is barely better than normal fire benders, Naruto said with confidence. I just hope you know what you're doing, Naruto, Mai said, secretly praying he won, since Zuko has been an ass talking down about her family for years and needs that boy to get a lesson in humility. Back in the stadium. Oh right. That's how I ended up here, Naruto thought, standing up as Zuko did when they turned to face each other as Naruto schooled his features, going back to his times at war. The TWO bowed as Ozai announced for the fight to commence, allowing Zuko to launch a stream of fire at Naruto, who simply sidestepped it, going forward, launching an arc of black fire screaming across the floor, making Zuko dodge when he looked down to see the damage Naruto's flames can do to the steel floor compared to any normal flame. Seeing it was still licking the floor, still wished to continue. Zuko, I'd hate to embarrass you in front of Daddy, Naruto said coldly, getting a ball of fire in return, which Naruto snuffed out as Naruto launched a wave of fire that reached the stands in height, making Zuko back until he created a sphere of fire protecting him for a moment until it dispersed, with Naruto holding a dagger made of fire to his throat. The look in Naruto's eyes sent chills down Zuko's spine. Much like his voice did the populace watching, even his father, who sat wide-eyed seeing as he trained Zuko himself for many years, since he found Azula to be a lost cause since she took after her mother. I pronounce the winner to be Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, Ozai announced with a growl as Naruto dispelled the flames in his hands. As he bowed to Zuko, who walked away in a huff, making Naruto shrug when he was hugged by Ty Lee, Azula and Mai, while Iroh gave him a firm pat on the back. I am proud of you, Naruto, but I must say I've never seen flames so strong except from a dragon. How is that? Iroh sked, looking at the floor, seeing that the flames are still there while Naruto's hands and feet aren't even burnt. I haven't the slightest idea really, uncle. I just think it's one of those one-in-a-million things on how my flames are this way, Naruto said with a shrug, while Naruto turned to the girls who were still hugging him with a smirk. You know, girls, if I didn't know any better I'd say you were feeling me up, Azula. My Ty Lee, I'm talking about you, he said with a grin, making them jump back with a blush, getting a laugh from Iroh. You never know, I saw your parents and heard how positively Hey, talk about you, Naruto, you may just get a surprising result in the future, Iroh said, walking away, making Naruto smirk. I gotta say I am rather hurt you had so little faith in me winning against Som. Pampered brat, he said with fake whimper, getting Azula and Mai to roll their eyes while Ty Lee hugged him. I believed in you, Foxy, I knew you could do it. You two should be ashamed of yourself. Holding so little doubt, she said, patting his head as his eyes grew larger. Look at his aura, it's a dingy gray because of your doubts, shame on you both, she said, holding him much to the other girl's ire while he grinned like a lunatic as they all walked out of the arena, while Ozai watched in contempt and contemplation. Time skip. Why the hell is the palace so fucking big? Gotta have a map, so I can get to the kitchen to get a glass of water, Naruto thought in the dead of night when he saw a light flame, making him follow it. Ursa, what are you doing up so late? Naruto asked roundin' the corner, making her turn to face him. I was just saying goodnight to Azula, she couldn't sleep so I helped her and now I'm going to go back to my room, she said quickly, only for Naruto to raise an eyebrow seeing the bag by the door. And I suppose the bag is your laundry you forgot about. I'm no fool, Ursa, what's going on really? I can tell you're lying, he said, narrowing his eyes, causing the older woman to sigh. Ozai exiled me from the kingdom. I was just visiting one last time to say goodbye to my daughter. Naruto, can you make me a promise? She asked, getting a nod. A serious promise on your honor? She said, getting a nod from him as he straightened up. Don't tell Azula. I fear if she found out she wouldn't take it well, and until Ozai is off the throne she'll be better off, so please, Naruto. Oh, until Ozai is gone could you keep her safe, for me? She said, getting a nod from him. Giving him a letter, she said, thank you, Naruto, please give this to her when this is over and tell her I love her very much. You'll look out for her, won't you? He grinned. Of course. We Uzumakis never go back on our word. And since you're giving things to me, let me give this to you. Reaching into his pocket, he unsealed one of his many tri-pronged kunai and gave it to her and a scroll saying, "This is for you." The scroll will transfer messages from the one you have now to me and vice versa, while the kunai CTS is a beacon letting me know where you are. Closing her hand around the kunai and scroll he said, "I pray to the spirits for your safety Ursa. While Ozai kicked you out of the kingdom Azula looked forward to spending some time with you now that you have to leave she's going to be devastated. I just hope things will turn out better, for both of you." She nodded kissing his forehead before pulling her hood back up as she hastily made her way through the palace for the last time making Naruto growl silently cursing Ozai for this before pocketing the letter as he proceeded to return to his room He desire for water no longer appealing to him as it once had. Sea of the Southern Water Tribe. Grr, where the hell is this avatar for fuck's sake? A black-haired teen thought standing at the helm of a Fire Nation steamship thought in irritation practicing her katas for her swordsmanship wielding a pair of dual Dao swords with the blades gleaming in the moonlight as she danced across the ship. The teen held an air of nobility and grace about her as she wore her sleep attire consisting of a pair of shorts and a top with a new addition of a burn scar across her left cheek just under her E is a sign of her exile from her father years ago. She was exiled when she was 12 and has traveled with her trusted friends all over the world looking for the boy who vanished for over 100 years for the last 2 years. Standing still she felt a familiar warmth spread through her as a pair of arms wrapped around her waist when she heard, "You know Azulaheim, when the moon come up it's usually time to sleep. I could say the same about you ninja boy," she said as she turned to see her fiancé of 4 years Naruto wearing a pair of sleep pants. As her uncle Iroh said not even a month later Mai's parents, her father and Ty Lee's parents came to him with marriage contracts to establish relations and he accepted without question and loved them equally doing loving gestures. He also told them his past which took them some time to accept until he showed them as he made 3 clones that turned into them. It turns out that when he marks them when they're ready they'll end up having access to the power that was once used by everyone. Kissing her neck getting a moan he said, "I know but I didn't feel you in the bed so I came to check up on you, something on your mind." She sighed, leaning into him saying, "I can't help but feel annoyed. You know when you told us that we were to assist the Avatar I thought that we would run into him and help him, but so far all we've done for the past 2 years was travel the world with Uncle and not find hide or hair of the Avatar. I just wish he or she would show up." Rubbing her shoulders he said, "Azulaheim, all things happen when it's necessary. Besides before we join I want to test this Avatar and see what he or she is like. We need to see if things go down we can trust the Avatar to do the difficult jobs." Knowing what he meant she nodded yawning making him chuckle. "Come on Heim, I doubt that the Avatar is going show up tonight. Wanna bet?" she said making him raise an eyebrow with a shrug agreeing as she got close to his ear. "Gee, ood, and when I win the bet since this is technically a new day we have until midnight tonight until the bet is over. And when I win you will do what I tell you tonight," she said huskily walking into the room making him watch her shaking his head. "I love the strangest women," he thought chuckling before joining her in the joined bed they shared with Mai and Ty Lee getting in the bed they instant L.Y. felt him in his spot as they took a place. The next morning, "Naruto, where do you think he could possibly be?" Azula asked as Naruto stood at the helm shrugging as he turned to her with Mai and Ty Lee showing his eyes changed completely where they were completely purple with 6 rings spreading from the pupil and several tomo on the rings. He shrugged before hopping down saying, "I don't know girls. I'm sensing a strong energy and it's like a dull beacon but I know he's here in the South Pole, but it's faint and drifting." "Faint," Iroh said walking up handing them some tea to warm up even though they wore their warmest clothes they still couldn't beat the chill even Naruto was forced to wear shoes in these conditions. Naruto nodded saying, "Yeah, I can't explain it but I would guess that he Avatar is either really old and his Kai is fading or what?" Mai said getting a sigh as he flashed his eyes as the veins on the side of his head bulged before the rings faded as his eyes were just a faded purple color. Or he could have put himself in a suspended animation 100 years ago, he said before he squinted his eyes looking over the horizon as his eyes returned to normal. "Suspended animation? What's that?" Mai asked getting a shrug. "Basically you want to preserve something you would freeze it at a low enough temperature to ensure that whatever is frozen will remain N changed even though something would age or decay in most cases something that's been put in suspended animation would prevent that making it look as it always did, he explained getting nods. So if he did it over 100 years ago it's safe to assume that he couldn't be any older than us or around that. Ty Lee said getting a nod. So how would we go about finding him if he did get out hypothetically what would we look out for? Iroh said making him think. Well one of the most obvious signs would be his nationality. The last avatar was Avatar Roku so this avatar would be an airbender so he was around before the attack on the nomads. The second factor would be things would greatly differ from what he once knew. Places that were once well known will either no longer exist or have changed greatly as well as the culture, he said when a beam of light rose from the far horizon when Azula cut him a triumphant grin making his shoulders sag. I win dear husband, she said making him drop his head. Ty Lee giggled while Mai laughed lightly as Iroh chuckled before he saw where the light was coming from saying, that appears to be coming from the Southern Water Tribe. So more snow and ice. Nah, Naruto said getting a nod making him sigh in disappointment. I miss when the land was how it was before. Granted practically every place was involved in war and senseless violence but Yuki no Kuni wasn't. Tea this cold, or separated, Naruto said as they set their course for the Southern Water Tribe. Southern Water Tribe. Sokka you're being paranoid how do you know he's Fire Nation? A dark-skinned girl said to her brother both wearing thick blue clothes as they watched a bald boy just sneeze before flying into the air. I just know Katara. I don't trust him for all we know that light could have let them know where we are. He said to his little sister getting an annoyed sigh from his sister. Please Sokka when did Fire Nation soldiers have airbenders and let alone a soldier who's 12 years old? She said seeing him try to make an excuse before she and her brother were led by the boy to his companion a sky bison. You mean to tell me this thing is going to get us to our tribe and how is that? Sokka said skeptically as Aang grinned. We're going to fly there. Appa yip yip. The boy said snapping the reins when the boy did so the creature jumped in the air only for it to belly flop into the water. The dark-skinned boy couldn't help but give a snide comment before he got hit by his sister. Oh yes so magical. Fire Nation ship. Naruto do you think one of your paths can do some recon? Azula said getting a shrug as he opened formed a clone that looked just like him as he gave him orders. I need you to head to the water tribe further ahead. The avatar might be there just maint. Aim surveillance and be sure to let us know where he or she might be you got that, he said getting a nod from him with a grin before he hopped off the ship running across the water. You know I still see. Can't help but be amazed by the abilities of your time. Iroh said getting a shrug from Naruto. Trust me when I say that making clones isn't the only thing we were capable of. It's one of the reasons I took that away because the power people held began to corrupt everyone in some sense or another until rules that used to apply to everyone stopped for others with children killing children, families being ruined. I put that to an end, he explained as he sighed. But what made you put that to an end though? Ty Lee asked getting a sigh as he scratched the back of his head. That's a story that I'll tell you all at another time. Trust me it's a long one and there are too many parts if I leave something out you'll be confused on where one part started and where the other began, he said getting it. Oh the lotus position as he reactivated his Rinnegan. With clone Naruto. Naruto I've made it to the village. And I have to say this isn't so bad I mean not like Yuki no Kuni back in our day but still. Nice. Like a simple tribe away from trouble, he thought to his creator. Good do you see anything or anyone out of the ordinary? He asked getting a mental shrug from the double as he stood on top of a tower made of snow before he sweat dropped. Other than the giant multi-legged bison, a little bald kid with a blue arrow on his head matching the arrow on the bison's head, he replied seeing the little boy fly around on a glider. Alright maintain surveillance and keep me posted. We'll make it to your position in a day due to all this ice, Naruto thought getting another mental nod as the mental transmission was cut as he continued to watching with a bored yawn. Wish I got to stay on a cushy ship with heat, the clone thought with a sniff stifling a sneeze. Back with Naruto. Oh, ning his eyes he said stretching. Well girls good news the avatar is there. Downside while watching through my clone's eyes we won't be getting to the tribe due to the way being blocked by ice even if me, Iroh Azula and the other fire benders kept melting the ice. We won't reach the land until midnight tonight at the least. They groaned as Azula sighed. Well, that is a bit of a disappointment. How? Do you know your clone won't be seen though? He shrugged as he said, well, I'm not really worried. I mean, I'm trained in stealth and my clones have all my skills, so if they're told to stay out of sight then it's fine. She shrugged saying, I suppose you make a decent point, but I just wish we could get there sooner. Putting a hand on her shoulder, Naruto, her uncle, Mai and Ty Lee said together, Acting her roll her eyes. The Fire Nation wasn't built in a day, Azula. Rolling her eyes she said, you all planned that one, didn't you? They shrugged, making her groan before she walked off to tell the captain about the ice. As Iroh saw he ran out of tea, saying, I'm going to make some more tea. Do either of you wish for more? They nodded, raising their cups as Naruto felt Iroh's tea was the greatest thing in the world and something neither of them would pass up for the world. Sue Foxy, what was the bet Azula was talking about? Ty Lee asked with Mai just as curious, wanting to know the same. Quote, last night Azula was frustrated that we haven't found the Avatar when I told her he might not show up from last night to tonight, and in the end I now have to do what she tells me when she tells me, he explained, getting a snort from Mai. You know, for someone who claimed his luck was supposed to be legendary, you seem to be pretty bad at betting, she said monotonously, getting a mock glare from her who's band as she returned it with a small smile while Ty Lee giggled. You know, Naruto, the more you talk about your past the more I wonder what it was like, Ty Lee said, getting a shrug from him. It isn't that glamorous compared to my time, especially with everyone being trained how to sneak in and out of someone's home in the middle of the night to take people's children or lives, he said with a shrug as they gulped. Iroh returning with more tea as Azula quickly joined them, taking a cup as she sighed. The captain won't listen to me when I tell him that with the ice we won't be getting anywhere. Icing an eyebrow, Naruto said, oh really, he won't now? Downing his tea quickly, Naruto walked to where the captain was, making the four look at each other with a questioning glance. I wonder what he's going to do, Azula asked, getting a raised eyebrow and a countdown when they heard Naruto chew out the captain. It frightens me on how he can go from as nice as can be to as frightening as a pack of saber-toothed moose lions, Iroh said, getting a nod from the others when Naruto came down with a grin on his face. So, did he change his mind? Azula said, getting a grin from Naruto. Yeah, you'd imagine. What the proper words can do to motivate a guy, Naruto said with his grin in place. You threatened him, didn't you? Azula said blankly, getting a smile from him when his and the other's stomach growled. After a moment of silence he said, who's hungry? The four couldn't raise their hands fast enough as they left for the dining hall. With clone Naruto. Grr, I hate boss, he gets to stay where it's warm and I'm forced to stay in the middle of the damn cold with nothing to fucking eat. If he wasn't me I'd roast him. The clone thought, maintaining watch on the Avatar as he entertained the masses. I haven't even heard a single thing about him learning the elements, and instead the kid would rather ride some bloody penguins. If this is who is fated to save the world, we are all royally screwed. The clone thought, taking a bite of his fish as he snuck into the camp of the water tribe to gather enough wood to prepare a meal. Setting up the mental connection, the clone thought, yo boss, you there? Single quote. Getting a groan he heard, yeah I'm here, what's your update? Single quote. Rolling his eyes watching the Avatar he replied, it's safe to say that this Avatar is either irresponsible or he has a lack of common sense. Why do you say that? The original thought curiously. He hasn't done anything to gain knowledge of the events that transpired, hasn't done anything to learn if there was anyone to teach him water bending, or has yet to leave to go to the other lands to learn earth or fire, the clone replied, getting a groan from the creator. So we have a child with zero experience in earthbending, waterbending or firebending, and only air bending to show for it, despite being frozen in ice for 100 years, and he has no interest in learning the others. Fan-fucking-tastic, Naruto thought as the clone grinned. I'll let you know if I find anything else out, boss, he thought as the original nodded before he disconnected the communication. Dining hall. Well, that's just horribly disappointing, Naruto said, getting their attention as they finished their meal. What is it, Naruto? Iroh asked, getting a yawn from Naruto as he set up his peisho table. It would seem the Avatar isn't taking Hi's job seriously, Naruto said, getting questioning glances from the others. Why is that, Naruto? Ty Lee questioned, getting a shrug. Well, he hasn't done anything to learn what's happened over the past 100 years. Or if there was anyone around to teach him waterbending, he said, getting raised eyebrows from the others. What about earth and fire? Mai said, getting a shake of the head. He doesn't know those either. It would seem he just doesn't want to do his job because he hasn't done anything to leave despite being there for what seems to be a couple hours and is instead entertaining the masses. With his airbending tricks, he explained with a sigh. That's disconcerting to say the least. How will we get him to start his mission? Azula said, watching him close his eyes before shrugging. Make him realize that the Fire Nation is a threat to not only himself but the other nations and have him go find an earth and water bender. We can get you to be a firebender teacher for him when they come across Tsunade, he said, getting a nod from the others as they agreed with him. How are we going to do that though? I mean, it's not like we can sit him down and just say, hey, you need to take your job seriously or every innocent person is going to die because of you, you know. Mai said, getting a shrug as they sat in silence. Maybe we perform a mock attack on the tribe. I mean, no strike to kills or injure, just cause some damage to the surroundings, make a few close calls, nothing more, as we push the people in one area while we cause some damage around us so the Avatar realizes the Fire Nation is here will only bring more violence. It's not my favorite idea but at the moment, but it's all we can do, he said solemnly, getting a depressed air as Iroh sighed. As much as I detest the idea of LVing innocent lives, this is the only thing we can do to make him realize the severity of today's times. I agree with him. If we can make him understand, then he will be more willing to take his job seriously, Iroh said, getting a nod from the others as they looked out the window as Mai, Ty Lee and Azula pretended to yawn. Well, Uncle, it's time we all went to bed and we can't sleep without our pillow, Azula said with a grin, which Naruto returned with a blank look as they dragged him out of the room by his arms. He said in a hush so Iroh could hear, help, oh the humanity, I'm being kidnapped by 3 beautiful girls, what is a man to do? Oh temptresses, please be merciful as you are kind. Chuckling, Iroh shook his head, watching the 4 vanish from the room, stroking his beard, thinking, I just hope those 4 think to keep the noise down. Rolling around with Azula on top of him still inserted, the 2 huffed as Mai and Ty Lee felt the bed stop pulling themselves closer to him as Azula grabbed the blanket, with Azula weakly kissing him with a satisfied sigh. Love you, Naruto, the 3 said, making him smile, kissing each of them on the forehead, making them sigh. Love you all too, he said, closing his eyes, letting sleep claim them as the room fell into silence save for the sound of a set of soft snoring. Next morning. Well, it seems someone had a nice sleep, Iroh said, seeing Naruto walk out with a grin on his face as Naruto had a blush creep onto his face with steam coming from him. Yeah, it was a nice sleep, I suppose, Naruto said, avoiding the aged bender's eyes much to his amusement. We'll be reaching the Southern Water Tribe in a few hours, Iroh said, getting a nod from him as Mai, Ty Lee and Azula came out with a noticeable limp and a blush on their face. Enjoy yourselves, Iroh asked, getting nods from the 3 girls as he chuckled as he told them of what he told Naruto. Good, we can prepare, but we have to remember no killing or harming, just collateral damage, Naruto's aide getting a nod from the others as Azula went to the captain of the benders to relay orders, with Naruto going into a meditative state. With clone Naruto, man, 24 hours and nothing exciting. Except watching a kid do some barely passable wind manipulation. I hate boss sometimes, the clone thought, having kept post for the entire day and night watching the small village. Oh, you hate me, do you? Well then, I was going to tell you that we're reaching the village and ask if you wanted to do me a small favor, but I guess I can do it myself, the clone jumped, hearing the original talk to him. Hey boss, I didn't know you were there, he. What do you need me to do? The clone thought, getting a mental grin. I thought as much, and yes, I do have something for you to do, my excitable duplicate. You see, our mission is to make the Avatar realize that so long as the Fire Nation is under its current leadership, things are only going to get worse. And what better way than to cause some destruction to property to fish him out and take action? The creator said, getting a questioning look expression by the clone. So cause some collateral destruction to fish the Avatar out and make him see that the Fire Nation is bad as it is. I'm guessing we can't cause harm to the people, the clone thought, getting a splitting migraine. No, I want you to kill everyone in sight. Of course we don't want to harm the civilians. We are only going to strike fear into them, that's it. When you sense me get there, dispel. Naruto ordered, getting a nod from the double as Naruto broke the connection. Grum. Ling as he removed the ringing in his ears, heading to the village. Hard ass. I heard that. He jumped from the sudden voice in his head, making him catch himself before falling to the ground. With Team Azula, how are things on your clones and Naruto? Azula asked, getting a sigh from her husband. Well, save for him being a smart ass, fine. I told him to do some subtle damage that will catch they attention, and when he senses us reach the village he's to dispel. He should have done a substantial amount of damage by then, Naruto said, getting a nod. Pulling the three girls closer, he said quietly, it seems you've also regained your chakra networks, so when we get somewhere quiet and secluded I'll begin training you once we get the chance, but for the time being when you guys go to bed you're going to have some seals put on you. Seals? Mai asked, getting a nod from him as he explained what they were, as they were simply gravity and resistance seals to make them stronger and faster. Their reserves were already massive. Princess Azula, they heard as they turned to see a guard coming towards her. What is it? Said Eris, said, getting a gulp seeing her narrowed eyes. Well, she said, making him shake before he said quickly. WWW, we will be arriving on the Water Tribe's land in a matter of moments, your majesty, he said, getting a nod from her as he ran off with a dust tra. Ill behind him, getting a snort from Naruto. Some people are rather spineless, huh? Naruto asked, getting a nod from the others present. Well people, we better get ready for quite the show. The warriors know to only attack the buildings, right? Naruto asked, getting a nod before Azula lit her hand with blue fire with a few flecks of black dancing in it. If they know better, then they know not to go again. Saint orders, she said, getting a grin from Naruto, loving to see her sadistic side to her. Well then, let's put on a show then, shall we? Naruto said, seeing the village on the horizon with the others preparing as well. In the Water Tribe, what's going on? Aang shouted, seeing the homes of the various Water Tribesmen catch fire or explode when Sokka rounded on him. I knew we couldn't trust you. You were helping the Fire Nation and you led them to us. He shouted, reaching for his boomerang as Aang pulled his glider out. Oh, don't blame the Avatar Water Boy, he was as unknowing of this as you were. They heard to see the Fire Nation ship stop at the end of the village as Naruto, Azula, Mai Tai Li and Iroh with the various fire benders on the ship arrive. What do you want? The warrior said, getting a snort from Azula. Why, the Avatar, of course. We felt a powerful energy and knew it could only be you. So are you going to come peacefully or are we going to get rough? Azula said rhetorically as she said her practiced speech for several years. I don't know what you're talking about, the Avatar died 100 years ago, Sokka said, making the airbender look away, making the four sigh. Shaking her head, she said to her team, I guess we'll just have to flush him out. Turning to her troops, she said, flush him out, destroy bit of property until he shows. They nodded before launching several bursts of fire at the village, getting frightened screams from the populace. Hey, stop it! Aang yelled, running towards them while Sokka and Katara yelled for him to stay back. Oh, and why should we, kid? Naruto asked, raising an eyebrow. He looked around, seeing the people cowering in a crowd, afraid, making him sigh, saying, You're looking for me, right? Well, if I come with you, you have to leave them alone. Looking over his shoulder, he saw the girls nod, making him shrug. Fine, kid, I'm a man of my word, you come with us and we'll leave them alone. He nodded as Azula called for the invading forces to return. Naruto put some shackles on him as they led him onto the ship, leaving Appa behind. Prison hold. Chained up with his hands bound in a metal prison, Aang said, subdued, to the four in front of him, why are you doing this? They shrugged as Naruto said neutrally, the Fire Lord wishes to expand his power, but with you around you're a threat to him. When he gained word the Avatar was still around, he feared you coming around and stopping him. But for a child who refuses to take his responsibilities seriously, I seriously believe he doesn't have much to worry over. With his head low, Azula continued, for I am. Seriously, I don't believe you're the Avatar or worthy of the title. 100 years ago you were reincarnated as you were to stop a threat to the balance of the world, but you chose to run and hide when everyone needed you. Lives ruined, friendships and bonds destroyed, all because you didn't want to step up, and everyone is paying for your irresponsibility. I mean, no offense, kid, but you left a Lot of people hurt praying and thinking you'd show up only to get crushed when you did nothing while letting the Fire Nation declare war on them and enslave many of them while you had a nice little Ndred year nap. Naruto said, noticing the boy flinched. He pressed on. So why did you just vanish? Too much of a coward. Or was it because you just didn't care about the lives of others but only cared for yourself? He said, not getting a response, making him and the others sigh. Oh well, not like it matters now. Once we make it to the Fire Lord, you'll either be executed or imprisoned till the day you die. No skin off our noses either way. Really, you might as well get comfy, Avatar, because this is the best you're going to get before we reach the Fire Lord, Naruto said, walking out of the room with the others, leaving him alone with his glider out of reach. Outside the room. Do you think you were a little harsh, Naruto? Iroh asked, getting a shrug from the ancient as they walked through the halls. Quote, I don't know, I guess I let my own frustrations get the better of me. I mean, before the Avatar came around I was his, and by connection all past Avatars' predecessor as the child of prophecy, and when I had to step up to the plate I fought and did what I had to while he ran, causing all this to happen, Naruto said with a sigh before he stretched. Besides, I didn't lock his shackles. If he wants to take his job seriously, then he'll break out and make it back to his friends, Naruto said when he froze in place with a grin. What is it? Mai asked, curious about the sudden grin. It would seem our airbend. Our friend has help coming for him, Naruto said, walking out the hall and onto the deck as they all looked into the distance from where they came, seeing the bison flying towards them at a slow pace. What are we going to do? Ty Lee asked, getting a shrug from him. I honestly haven't thought that far. If I had to guess, I would say put on one hell of a show and go easy on the kid while he makes it to Hi's friends, Naruto said, stretching before looking out of the corner of his eyes, seeing the boy come running out with his glider. Well, it seems someone decided to join the party, Naruto said, lighting his hands as Azula did the same while the other benders around them followed, blasting the airbender with fire, which he blocked with a dome of wind, which put a strain on him trying to fight the two Onger flames before he spun his glider upwards, flying higher into the air, avoiding a medium-sized explosion. Bringing his glider down, he swung it down and to the side, causing many of the guards to fly off the side, with Naruto and the others to catch onto edge of the ship, allowing Aang to jump on top of Appa and escape. As everyone got back on the boat, Naruto and the others groaned from the pressure of the wind hitting them as he said, well, I can say I didn't expect that little trick. They nodded when Azula said, what are we going to tell father? Iroh shrugged, saying after a moment, escape at the last second. They nodded, agreeing with him while they helped fish the others out of the water as they watched the Avatar and his group fly away. Naruto nodded, knowing he still had a long way to go, but knew the Avatar was now on the right path. The end. Remember to subscribe and like this video. See you in the next video.